On this concept of taqwa. Every Jum'ah that we come, it is the sunnah to start with these verses of taqwa that we hear, that I just recited and I just translated. And we're reminded about attaining taqwa and dying not except in a state of Muslims who have taqwa. But what I'd like to focus on briefly first is just defining what taqwa is, but more importantly, how do we gauge or how do we measure, or what are some signs and indications that a person who has achieved taqwa has. So first and foremost, the definition of the word taqwa. A lot of us have heard, and it's easy sometimes to translate into having fear of Allah, or being God-fearing, or God consciousness. But this word taqwa is actually, it's a bit difficult to translate into Arabic. The root of this word taqwa, it comes from the meaning to shield or to protect. Therefore, taqwa in our deen, in our belief, carries a very significant meaning. According to many scholars, taqwa is having this consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our lives and understanding that His presence around us has an impact on what we do. It should propel us to do good and protect us and shield us from doing evil. A noted Islamic scholar, Ibn Rajab, he said the essence of taqwa is to create a shield for yourself so that you may be guarded against the anger and the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How do you do that? By staying away from the things that He has forbidden and rushing towards the things that He has obligated on us. Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, he said, taqwa, he gave an example. He said one of the highest forms of taqwa is if you were to take your heart and put it on a platter, and you could walk out in public, into the markets, in front of everybody, and you wouldn't be ashamed because your heart would not be filled with any kind of words or actions or deed that would embarrass you. And it would only be filled with the understanding and the remembrance of the hereafter. And the last example that I will give comes from Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu. He asked one of his companions, he said, have you ever walked through a thorny path, a path that's filled with thorns and obstacles that could harm you? And they replied, yes. So then they asked, what do you do in this situation? You say you cover yourself, you pick up your garment and you fold it in and you wrap yourself up. And Umar radiyallahu ta'ala, he said, that is what taqwa is. It's a protection, a shield that serves to guard you against those things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would be angry with. Guard you against the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and lead you towards doing good. But that's not the purpose of this khutbah. The most important part that I want to focus on is what are some signs, some indications. How do we measure or gauge that we are truly realizing this concept of taqwa in our lives, that we are truly incorporating this within ourselves? Sayyidina Uthman ibn Affan radiyallahu anhu, he told us that there are 5 signs. There are 5 signs that people of taqwa have. So let's get into it. The first sign, and all of these are important, and as we hear this, as I go through this, I want all of us to contemplate and understand how are we incorporating these and measure ourselves against these signs. The first and foremost sign is that a person of taqwa does not sit with somebody, does not keep company with somebody, except for those who are concerned with their deen and those who have control over their desires and over their tongue. Sayyidina Uthman, he said, the first sign of a person with taqwa is the company that he or she keeps. They don't keep company with people except for those people who are concerned with the state of their iman, of their deen, of their relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another characteristic is that these people that they keep company with, they have control over their desires. They don't let their desires govern their actions. They don't follow their desires wherever they may take them. And they have control over their tongue. Why is this important? The Prophet ﷺ, he said, a person is on the religion or the way of their companion. So let each of you consider who you keep company with. So in other words, the people that we surround ourselves with are an automatic reflection of who we are, of our religious matters, of our worldly affairs, of our personal state, of our emotional and social well-being. They are an automatic reflection of us. It's natural. We're going to go towards where we feel comfortable, where people that are like-minded enjoy our company. And this concept is speaking about suhbah, about companionship. It's not just people who you spend time with at work. You know, you can make it, okay, you know what, my company doesn't have enough taqwa, I can't go to work today. No, that's not what it means. Suhbah or companionship is those people that you spend extended and meaningful time with. Ibn Ata'Allah, he said, and he gave advice, and he said, do not keep company with, do not be a regular companion with somebody in whose presence your state is not elevated and whose speech does not guide you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what I want each and every one of us, and a lot of people might think, hey, this goes towards our youth. Right, the youth need to have good companions. But we as adults, who do we keep friends with? And when we are in their company, does it propel us? Does it elevate us in our iman, in our belief? Does their speech guide us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? That's what a person of taqwa is constantly concerned with. Because they're not going to put themselves in an environment where they are surrounded by people who are saying, just follow your desire, man, just this once, do it, go have fun. They remind you, Allah will forgive you, it's okay, just do it this once. What's the big deal? Don't you want to have fun? Aren't you interested in doing something exciting? The heart, in that case, continues to chase entertainment and excitement and fun. Or do we keep company with people around whom naturally just when we're in their company, subhanAllah, you know, I have, alhamdulillah, by the blessing of Allah, people that are in my life that when I'm in their company, you're constantly reminded, hey, it's time to pray. Zishan, did you do this? You know, one of the brothers, subhanAllah, when I bought a house a few years ago, when he came over with his family to congratulate me, you know, most of the people that came over, they were saying, oh, this house is very nice, you can do something here, you can put a nice little flower pot here, change the chandelier here like this. But to this day I remember, the first question this brother asked me, he said, Zishan, did you recite Surah Baqarah in your home? Right? Because being in this company, we're reminded that if we want the barakah to come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we remember Him and we recite His words. So think about the company that we keep. When we are around them, do they uplift us and bring us closer to Allah? Do we feel good? And do we want to do better? Or are we in the constant chase of our desires, where our tongues are not controlled, and we are constantly chasing entertainment? So the first sign of the person of taqwa is who he or she chooses to keep as companions. The second sign is that if a great fortune from this dunya befalls this person, they deem it as a trial. Now this might seem strange. You're getting something good. You're getting an increase in your worldly deeds. So why are you looking at it quote unquote negatively? But that's not the case. Any increase in worldly matters, this person of taqwa, they deem it as a trial. The human tendency, people tend to think what? When times are good, we feel blessed. We feel rewarded. You feel almost that you are deserving of this from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say in Surah Al-Fajr? أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم فأما الإنسان إذا ما ابتلاه ربه فأكرمه ونعمه فيقول ربي أكرمن. Look at how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He phrases. He says, and as for the human being, when his Lord tries him, tests him, ibtila, with what? With the increase in sustenance, with generosity and favor. The human being responds, فَيَقُولُ رَبِّي أَكْرَمًا. They say, my Lord has honored me. They're happy, like, hey, I deserve this. Yes, I feel good. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the next verse, وَأَمَّا إِذَا مَا ابْتَلَاهُ فَقَدَرَ عَلَيْهِ رِزْقَهُ فَيَقُولُ رَبِّي أَهَانًا. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends another ibtila, another trial, another test. And how does this human being respond? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is disgracing me. The human tendency, as I mentioned, is for people to say when they're receiving something good, that Allah is honoring me, we deserve this. But Allah, He calls this a test. He calls this ibtila, which is similar to the case when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala restrains the blessings that He's given. But the human tendency there is to say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is disgracing me, instead of understanding that this is a test. Now what is the lesson that we want to derive from this? Is that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues to give us blessings, how do we respond? And think about this. If you want to truly understand why the blessings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase in worldly matters as a test, ask yourself, why are you deserving this? Versus other people, subhanAllah, who don't have as much comfort or luxury. People that are living in persecution. Is it that we're better than them? Is it that we have curried some favor with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Or is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is testing them with difficulty and He's testing us with ease and luxury? Ali radiallahu anhu, he said that wealth, he said it's a very, very heavy test. He says, حَلَالُهُ حِسَابٌ وَحَرَامُهُ إِقَابٌ. This wealth that all of us and the entire society around us is chasing, he gives a perfect example. He says if you acquire it in a halal way, you're going to be held accountable for it. How did you spend it? And if you acquire it through haram means, through means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forbidden and prohibited, then you'll be punished for it. So a person of taqwa keeps this perspective that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants me His favor, He's testing to see how I respond. The Sahaba, they used to practice this. Whenever they would have times of good and prosperity and continued and sustained success, they would start to worry. They would say, this is a test from Allah, and they would increase their worship. And when times of hardship came, they would be patient, and in fact happy, because they know إِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا فَإِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا, that verily after times of hardship, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant ease. The third sign that Uthman radiallahu anhu said that a person of taqwa has is that if they find a practice of our deen, no matter how small it seems, they cling to it dearly. No matter how insignificant it might seem, how minor or minute it might be, outwardly, they cling to it. So brothers and sisters, we ask ourselves, do we cling on to the smallest aspects of our deen? Those practices from our religion that can be easily forgotten. These are the sunnah of our Prophet ﷺ, where a lot of times, hey, it's taken for granted. But when you enter the place of worship, you enter it with your right foot. When you leave that place of worship, you leave it with your left foot. When you pick up a glass to drink water, are you drinking it with your right hand? Are you making istighfar throughout the day? These are like, oh, it's just sunnah. The Sahaba and the companions and those people of taqwa, they never have, it's just sunnah, that attitude. They cling to it. They're conscious as they're entering the masjid, hey, I'm going to put my right foot in. But why? Is it because it's such a great, immense thing? No, it's because the people of taqwa, they are seeking any and every opportunity to gain favor with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and repel His punishment. I'll give you an example. If the local bank called you and they said, Brother Zishan, for 3 hours, we're going to open up the entire vault of the bank, all of the safes, everything is open, come through, and you can take whatever you want, no questions asked. Am I going to go into the bank saying, okay, you know what, I'll show up 2 hours later, by myself, in a 2-seater, and I'll just take casually, get some coffee on the way, casually what I want, and then I'll leave? No. People say, you're crazy. You're going to roll up with an 18-wheeler, you're going to call all your friends, say, hey, let's get in there and get if there's a penny on the floor, I'm going to pick it up, clean it off, and put it in my pocket. But are we greedy for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How do we feel when we miss an opportunity to get one of those deeds? You know, I was listening to a lecture by one of our scholars, and he said that he was sitting with his teacher and other students in the masjid. And then the call for Fajr was heard. And he said he saw his teacher saying, Astaghfirullah. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Distraught, depressed. The scholar was saying that I looked at my teacher, you know, it was almost like somebody told him that a person in his family had passed away. So the students, they asked this teacher, they said, what's wrong? And he replied, after hearing the adhan for Fajr, I realized that I did not pray witr. Look at the reaction. That this was not an obligatory act. This was a chance for a person to draw closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through additional deeds, and they missed that. So the question we want to ask ourselves is, how do we feel even when we miss the obligatory deeds that we have towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, about the 2 rak'ahs of sunnah before the fard of fajr. He said the 2 rak'ahs before the dawn prayer are better than this world and everything that it contains. In another narration, he said that the 2 rak'ahs before fajr are dearer to me than this entire world. That's how much weight these small acts that might seem outwardly insignificant carry with the person of taqwa. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. In the second part of the khutbah, I'll finish up the last 2 signs that Uthman ibn Affan radiyallahu anhu told us that a person of taqwa possesses. The 4th sign that he said is that this person avoids something that could possibly be halal, but they fear that there is haram entangled in it. Outwardly, it might seem like, hey, there's nothing wrong with this. This is okay. But they avoid it because they doubt that there might be some haram entangled in this. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that the halal is evident and the haram is evident. But in between those things, there are things that are doubtful about which people don't know. So those people who guard themselves against the things that they doubt and that they don't know about, their religion and their honor is free of any blame. What does this mean? This means that they don't just approach anything that they do lightly. If there are activities or matters or issues or subjects that they have a doubt about in their heart, they don't take it lightly and just proceed. Oh, Allah is Ghafurur Rahim. Oh, this is okay, this seems halal. Do we have that concern in our heart that what I might be going to engage in, if I don't know or if I have a doubt about, that this may involve something that is displeasing to Allah? And this can be anything for any person in which their heart has a doubt that they don't know about. So what do? Again, this concept of taqwa or guarding, they guard themselves against the possible anger or punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is a sign of increased taqwa, a shielding from any chance of displeasure from Allah. And the last sign that Sayyidina Uthman said that a person of taqwa possesses is that this person supposes that if all of the people were to be saved, he or she would be the only one that perishes. If all of humanity was to be saved, I would be the only one who would perish. This is a very significant and fundamental element of taqwa. Think about the understanding that this takes. Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu anhu, he's reported to have said, and this saying a lot of people know, he said, on the day of judgment, if a caller from the heavens made an announcement that all of the people are going to be entering paradise except for one, I would fear that I would be that person who doesn't enter paradise. SubhanAllah. This is the person who we know famously he gave half of his belongings for the cause of Allah. This is the person about whom the Prophet ﷺ said that if there was to be a prophet after me and there is no prophet after me, it would be Umar. This was the person who the Prophet ﷺ said that when Umar goes down one path, Shaitan takes another path. What happened in their hearts? What transformed their hearts, their thinking, their understanding to believe? And do we think that Umar radiallahu anhu was naive? That all of the people, what is the meaning of all of the people, the entire creation? It's everybody from the beginning of Adam alayhi salatu wasalam to the last person that's going to be born. He knows that. But he still, in his heart, has the feeling that if everybody, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saves them and sends them into paradise, and there's only one person left, it will be me that will get that punishment. This feeling, this concern, the sense of urgency towards Allah. What did they have in their hearts? That's taqwa. But the second part of his statement also is that if the caller announced on the day of judgment from the heavens that all of the people, all of humanity, all of creation would enter hellfire except for one person, I would hope that would be me. This is sincerity with Allah. Having the hope and having the fear. Having the hope in His forgiveness and having the fear of His punishment. That balance is the perfect sign of a person with taqwa. I want to go to Jannah, but the feeling we should have is that I haven't done anything. I haven't done enough to deserve it. That I don't want to go to the hellfire, but I'm afraid that I haven't done enough to protect myself from it. All of these things encapsulated form that feeling, that protection, that shield, that force that propels us, number one, to draw closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through His remembrance, through His worship, by doing deeds that are pleasing to Him. And number two, this feeling, this force, this sentiment, this thought, this constant presence in our mind that I'm going to guard myself and shield myself and protect myself from any environment, any deed, any action that will be displeasing to Allah and incur His punishment. My dear brothers and sisters, I want to end with this. This khutbah wouldn't be complete without acknowledging the special time of year that we've entered in today. And these are the first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah. These are considered the best 10 days out of the entire year in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So knowing what we just covered in the first and second part of the khutbah, and having this cognizant understanding that we want to do whatever we can to draw closer to Allah and achieve His pleasure, and we want to do whatever we can to attain His forgiveness and push ourselves away from His displeasure and punishment, these 10 days are the perfect opportunity. What are some of the recommendations that we can follow in these first 10 days to increase our standing in the eyes of Allah? Is increase our ibadah, our prayers. Make sure you fulfill your obligatory prayers, of course, and first and foremost, but add on the sunnah. Fasting. The Prophet ﷺ would fast during these 10 days. And we know how special fasting is in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And lastly, the Prophet ﷺ said in these 10 days, increase your takbir, your tahleel, and your tahmeed. What are those three things? Increase the takbir, saying Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. The tahleel is saying La ilaha illallah. And the tahmeed is وَلِلَّهِ الْحَمْدُ. Praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And of course, the gem of these 10 days is the day of Arafah. The fasting on which this one day, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts, the sins of the previous year of the fasting person are forgiven, and the sin of the coming year are forgiven. So race towards these opportunities and don't miss them for any other reason. Understand the significance that they will carry for you when you stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And inshallah, I pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is happy with us when we meet Him, and that we earn His reward and we stay away and are protected from His punishment and the hellfire. Allahumma hdina fi man hadayt, wa afina fi man afayt, wa tawallana fi man tawallayt, wa barik lana fi ma a'tayt, wa qina wasrif anna bi rahmatika sharra ma qadayt, fa innaka taqdi wa la yuqda alayk, la ya'izzu man adayt, wa la yudhillu man wa'alayt, tabarakta rabbana wa ta'alayt. ونستغفرك اللهم من كل جميع الذنوب والخطايا ونتوب إليك وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Before we start the salah, I want to inform you that inshallah Eid al-Adha will be on Sunday, August 11th. That's a week from this coming Sunday. And inshallah ISWV will be holding it not here at Knights of Columbus, but at Pierce College inshallah. The salah will be at 9 o'clock and the takbirat will start at 8:30. There is going to be more information and more details coming out about this. Please reach out to the administration, but we will be posting on the website, sending it out on the newsletter. But I want to let everybody know so you can plan inshallah. Eid Sunday, August 11th at Pierce College. Jazakallah khair wa aqimus salah.